Hi, you're welcome to this video on ions, and here we'll be looking at why and how these ions form. Well, in the atom, we have the positively charged protons found in the nucleus, of course with the neutrons, and then the electrons found outside in shells. Now, atoms tend to be neutral simply because the number of protons equals the number of electrons. Now, sometimes atoms can lose electrons or even gain electrons in other times. But the question is, why do they lose or gain electrons? So take neon, for example. It has an atomic number of 10. And because it's neutral, it means it has 10 protons and 10 electrons. And these electrons are put in shells. So the first shell takes a maximum of 2, and then the next shell takes 8. If there's more, the next shell will take another 8. But having 8 electrons in the outer shell means neon is very stable because it has a full outer shell. But if you look at sodium, sodium has an atomic number of 11, so 11 electrons because it's neutral. If the first shell takes a maximum of 2, and then the next shell takes a maximum of 8, it leaves you with 1 electron that has to go in the outer shell. Now, this makes sodium very unstable because it doesn't have a full outer shell. So sodium tends to want to lose that 1 electron so that it can have an outer shell of 8. So atoms tend to lose or gain electrons simply to become stable or have a full outer shell. So if an atom loses or gains an electron, it's called an ion. And it can be a positive ion like sodium plus or magnesium 2 plus, or even a negative ion like chlorine minus or O2 minus. So how do these positive or negative ions form? Well, imagine an element called Y with an atomic number of 3. That means it has 3 protons and 3 negatively charged electrons, which makes it neutral because number of positive protons equal number of negative electrons. Now, if Y gains an extra electron, it means that there is one extra negative charge with no positive charge to balance it. This means Y now carries a charge of minus to account for this extra negative charge. So if Y now gains an extra negative electron, it means Y has 2 extra negative charges that has to be accounted for. So Y becomes Y2 minus. And if it gained 3 electrons, it becomes Y3 minus, and so on. So what if Y in its neutral state decides to lose an electron instead? It means that there is one extra positive proton with no negative electron to balance it, which means Y now becomes Y plus to account for the extra positive charge. So if Y loses an extra electron, it means there's 2 extra positive charges to account for. So Y now becomes Y2 plus. And if it loses 3 electrons, it becomes Y3 plus, and so on. So element Y can be like this with no charge next to it because the number of positive protons equals number of negative electrons. Or Y can be represented with a positive charge next to it, because this positive charge means there's more protons than negative electrons, which means that Y has lost an electron. And if Y is represented with a negative charge next to it, it means that Y has more electrons than positive protons, which means Y has gained a negative electron. Note that throughout this, the atomic number stays the same, whether positive, negative, or neutral, because the atomic number represents the number of protons, and the number of protons never changes. So finally, let's look at one quick question. So you have a sodium ion with an atomic number of 11 and mass number of 23. And you're asked to find the number of protons, electrons, and neutrons. Well, first off, the atomic number means the number of protons, so we have 11 protons. Now, if the atom was neutral, then the number of protons should be equal to the number of electrons. But this positive charge shows that 1 electron has been lost, so now we have 10 electrons. Finally, you know how mass number equals protons plus neutrons? If the mass number is 23 and the number of protons is 11, then it means neutron will be equal to the mass number minus the proton number, which is 12. So the number of protons is 12. Well, that's all we have for this video. Thanks very much for watching. Bye-bye.